come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
A geek for fun.
Indeed.
I'm that Matt kid. What's up?
Hey. So Matt chose a review topic for us this week. And Matt, what are we reviewing today?
We are reviewing Batman Gotham Knight, put out by Warner Brothers Animation. Essentially, it is a anthology Batman film where it's got like 6 short films that are all done by a handful of different anime production houses. It's kind of the middle of the like trilogy of things that have done this, because there was the Animatrix before this, and then there was Halo Legends after this, and they all were put out by Warner Home Video. They all used the same like 3 or 4 anime production houses. I have not seen Animatrix, but I have seen Halo Legends and this several times. And this came out at just the right age for me. I was really into anime when this came out in like 2008. That was like when I was really into like Naruto and stuff, and I was really into Batman. So this just like came out at the right age. I still have my same DVD that I had this years ago. I used to like listen to the commentary because Denny O'Neil is on the commentary for this for some reason, and that's just really cool. And so yeah, I just thought we'd talk about it.
It's an interesting little beast. Because in all your spiel there, the thing you've neglected to mention, which is I still think the most notably weird thing about this, is it's set in the Nolan continuity. And this was, you gotta remember, when they started these direct-to-DVD movies for DC animated projects, I think this is like the second or third one. Mm-hmm. So this is when they were still putting effort into doing things differently and being experimental. So that's why it's an anime format. But like, this was released in 2008. It was marketed as well as they could to try to connect it to The Dark Knight, since that movie was like, so monumental at the time. It was released just weeks, like maybe a week before that movie came out.
Just the week before.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Wow.
They really pushed on it, and this is the first time they did that. And then for 2 more DC live-action film releases since then, they've tried the same trick, and they've gotten lazier about it each time to the point where it just became a blatant lie. Because my favorite of the DC direct-to-DVD animated films, Green Lantern Emerald Knights, is very similar to this in that it's just a bunch of, one-off stories. It has more of a cohesive narrative. It doesn't just like flash up with like a title screen kind of thing. There is like a overarching story, but it is just, okay, here's a story about Lyra, and here's a story about the first Green Lantern, and here's a story about this and this and this. And so it's they release that one, and they're like, oh yeah, this is in continuity with the Ryan Reynolds movie. No, we're not using the same character designs. These are the exact same designs from our other Green Lantern animated movie, First Flight, that came out in 2009. So that it's awkward there, but I mean, it's set far enough off. They've never made a sequel to Green Lantern. They're never going to. It functions. And then Superman Unbound, which has Brainiac and Supergirl as like established character. Supergirl, is set in the Man of Steel continuity, apparently. It's just the most entertaining shit to me. No fucks given. Straight up no fucks given. It's just a marketing play at that point. But this one's interesting because when you go into it with the context of this is in the Nolanverse, a lot of things, you can tell they actively thought about that to some degree. It's got a lot of things that feel awkward and clunky in that context, but it's got a lot of like aesthetic things that are kind of informed by it being in the quote-unquote Nolanverse. The city and the way that Gotham City is shown often looks a lot like the sets and stuff they were using in Batman Begins, particularly with like the trains and stuff. The Batmobile is, with I think one exception, consistently looking like, you know, different artist takes on the Tumbler. It's kind of interesting. And of course you got like Lucius Fox, obviously knows Bruce Wayne's Batman kind of thing. It's got some interesting stuff going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Only in one of these do they even do the Nolan bat suit, which I think is kind of interesting. Because the only one they do the Nolan bat suit in is in Darkness Dwells, which is fuck. I can't wait to talk about these because I think they're so fun, as bad as some of them are. That's the only time they do the Nolan bat suit. Yeah, they mostly do like the Tumbler and stuff like that. I know in Working Through Pain, the Batmobile is legit just the '89 Batmobile, which is really funny.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of make it work because Alfred shows up in it, so maybe it's a different model.
It's the one that Alfred can drive.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff like that's interesting. I don't know, Alfie. What's your general thoughts on this film?
Well, I was very much again in that time period when like I was into the Nolanverse. I think we've talked about like how big Joker were and that kind of thing, and like everyone kind of was kind of imagining like in a post-Dark Knight world, what would the Nolanverse be as like continued storytelling, not realizing that the next film was just going to cut everything off from that. Everyone was imagining, well, this could continue as its own Batman verse. So it's really interesting to see, probably outside of a few tie-in comics, the Batman Begins video game, this is the only thing that tries that although it's very surface value, and they've admitted that really this could fit in any Batman continuity, or isn't in its own loose your head's version of Batman. It's neat to see them at least try that, at least see, okay, but does this work as its own universe in the same way that the DCAU has its own different stories and different spin-offs and stuff? Can Nolan Batman sustain itself beyond that? And I also think it's really interesting that from production history, and given how secretive they were on The Dark Knight, I'm very confident no one on the team working on this knew what the hell The Dark Knight was going to be. Because just going off Batman Begins, that's a pretty standard Batman origin story. You can imagine that would eventually get comic booky, right? Like, that's not too far a leap. Once they go to Dark Knight, though, the whole color palette changes. Gotham gets super more realistic to where it is just Chicago. Everything suddenly really police procedural, and all the aspects of Begins that were kind of supernatural, like the fear gas and stuff, were like super toned down to where like Scarecrow's now just selling drugs. And if you didn't watch Begins, you would just assume that's the reinvention of Scarecrow. He's just a drug dealer. So to see that these guys probably thought they were going to have more leeway to get away with some of the things they did in this than they actually did, I think is interesting as well. Killer Croc, for example, is like they just go full on exact toxic waste mutation. Like, yep, they give Turtles origin in this, which is cute. But on a production standpoint, just enjoying it as a piece, I think this is fantastic. I think this is a outstanding example of why you should be using these characters in different mediums, and why these characters work so well when you just let them move, when you give some rhythm to how they feel and how they act. There's a reason why so many different Batman AMVs use clips from like 99% as just this film, because this is the best Batman's ever moved. You can like other art styles, but Batman has never moved as fluidly as he does in these shorts.
Alfie, we
Alice,
agree.
absolutely.
I love it.
No, I mean, like, the Batman animations, like, what's the one with the magic bullet deflector? What's that?
Oh,
sword?
Field Test?
Field Test, okay. With the exception of Field Test, each of these Batman designs look fantastic, and the movement of Batman on screen, yeah, I absolutely agree. Absolutely, stellar. I think the thing that, like, no one nails, because we get so many wildly different character designs for Bruce Wayne, is Bruce Wayne. He looks really awkward in all of them. Like, one, he looks like, I'm going to this high school anime pro tag, and another
Like
like
Yagami from fucking Death Note.
Field Test is really funny for that, because I was going to say he looks like Wayne dating Sam.
that one's probably got the most like art style choices where I'm just like, no, because he looks like fucking Birdman when he's in the Batman suit. Just shit. That one's got, I think, the biggest problems for me. But like, and then you get to like the Line of Fire or whatever, the Deadshot one, and then he's just got this fucking like chin. And I'm like, oh man, there's so many wildly different, and then like some of the other ones are just kind of meh. Like the Working Through Pain one just doesn't look like Bruce Wayne to me. He just looks like too skeevy in a way, I guess. And I mean, again, this is the one where they're actively trying to go Nolan. So part of me would be like, oh well, I guess this is what happens when you've got all these different artists, interpreting the character and whatnot. But like, technically, they should all just be trying to do like their take on Christian Bale, right? Instead of just anime pro tag. So I thought that was kind of funny. But as far as Batman himself goes, oh no, every single one of these could just be an animated series. I'd fucking watch it. It'd be dope.
I would pay so much literal money to get something done in the style of Crossfire, the second short, because it's done by the folks who did Ghost in the Shell, which is like one of my fucking favorite anime series, the Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. And I always thought like Batman in a like Ghost in the Shell or Cowboy Bebop or like a slightly more grounded in reality anime style would literally just kill it, and it does in like every way possible. We should probably do these like segment by segment, you think?
Oh, sure.
Okay, I think that's a good thing. And what I think is interesting as well. I don't know if you know, Matt, you might know this because I think you've like deep dived in this a little bit more. Can you tell which two do it twice?
Well, I just know who. It's actually two of them. Same studio does two of them, and then another studio does two of them. But you cannot really tell, which I think is kind of impressive. Like if you don't know who it is, I think you would not be able to guess that it's the same studios.
I don't know. The Line of Fire one looks very similar to the Deadshot one.
Well, no, they're not done by the same people.
Okay.
We'll get into it when we go into each individual one, but there's two of them are done by the same people, and then another two are done by the same people, so it's like 4 companies, and like you can't fucking tell, like it's crazy. It's really cool.
And I thought that was a good thing to bring up as well, just that each one isn't necessarily like say in a happy future reality where DC animation doesn't suck anymore. Where they decide, oh yeah, why don't we just hire these guys? It shows that it wouldn't necessarily have to look like these short. It's versatile. It almost reads some of these things from those two companies particularly. Feels like it's a pitch. It's like we can do this or we can do Batman like this. Like it feels like they're flexing. Because if they've got hired for 2 shorts, DC was probably in closer relations with them than say the people who did Crossfire, which would make Matt sad.
It would make me sad because that's my favorite one visually. But I think all of these are pretty killer. So
all right, well let's talk about Have I Got a Story for You, aka the better version of that one episode of Batman the Animated Series.
Ooh, that's intense.
I mean, like, I've made no bones about not being a huge fan of Batman the Animated Series. Like, I like the DCAU, and I like things about Batman the Animated Series, but every time I watch it, I get sleepy.
That's fair.
Yeah, so... No, but, this is like one of those things... I think this is done with Batman more than any other fictional character. Of like, people talking about Batman and having it be just completely different, contradictory descriptions of what he is, what he looks like, yada, yada, yada. And this one does such a good job of it because it puts it in the eyes of kids. And so kids are just, oh no, he looks like a monster, and he looks like a moving shadow, or he's a robot. That whole thing is, I think, a really, really strong creative choice. And I like the way that it's told in a very non-linear fashion. I think that's really, really cool. And again, it's one of those things that kind of works in the Nolanverse, because if you've got this just straight up, it's a guy in a suit that the Nolanverse has, where he's not like particularly special, then all the myth around Batman kind of turning up is just such a cool notion.
Yeah, this one is done by Studio 4 Degrees, I think, or Studio 4 Degrees C. Well, I don't know how they have their name, but Studio 4.
4 Degrees, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably, of the ones that are on this, they're one of the more, like, I don't want to call them more low key, but they've probably done the least amount of like really huge recognizable works of the 4 studios. They actually did Justice League Flashpoint Paradox. They would go on to animate that. I really like this one with its fucking Mike Mignola-esque looking Batman. It's definitely based off of that. Not based off of, but at least the same thing as that episode where they do like Dark Knight Returns and stuff. But this is just so cool. Gotham looks gorgeous in this one. The Living Shadow Batman from like the first little story is great. The Man Bat's pretty cool. The robot one's a little weird, but cool. And the main kid who ends up saving Batman at the end of the movie is voiced by fucking Robin from Teen Titans. So that's neat. I like this one a lot. It's a good opener. It's really fun and kind of lighthearted and lets you get a bunch of flavors of Batman. The animation is great. I think it's probably got the most polarizing art style though, so it's probably good to lead on this one and not like end on it, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think the only thing with all of these, but I think it's the most noticeable here, was the one thing I do know about the behind the scenes production side of this one, because I remember, I think it was Conroy talking about this in an interview where he was like, oh, this one was different because normally, we'd record our lines and then they'd animate the characters to us, whereas here all the animation was done and it just had a couple extra lip flaps and we just had to try to fit it, and so that was a new experience for me. And I'm like, I don't know if it's because I know that I can now tell that the lip animation is off, but it almost looks a little bit like a fan dub from time to time. Like, there's just a lot of the things aren't quite right. A lot of the performances, I think, are a bit stiffer, which is weird because it's not like it's like Christian Bale voicing the things. God, that'd be hilarious. Like a screen actor that doesn't have a lot of voice acting background trying to do it. It's Kevin Conroy. He's a fucking voice actor through and through. So it's a little weird that like he and a lot of the other actors that they have in this just, I don't know, there's a disconnect that I get through a lot of the lip animation and stuff.
I think that's interesting to point that out, though, is yes, he's a voice actor, but given his experience, he's primarily a Western animation voice actor. He doesn't do anime dubs. I think if you got like a Sean Schemmel or a Chris Sabat on this, they kill it, right? Because they're used to working under those restrictions. I think that, again, is just one of the things where they probably... I think that's something I have with all of these as well, is Kevin Conroy's on the peak of his game here. I do not think he was the right casting choice for this.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think he's still in that like Justice League Unlimited. He's never sounded better as Batman. He's the ultimate Batman right now. This is his peak, but that does not lend itself to again his inexperience voicing over the pre-established animation, and B, the fact that this is such a, even in the most out there Batman designs, right? We are dealing with a younger Bruce or a more stylized Bruce, and it's something that really doesn't fit with how Kevin Conroy is supposed to portray in all of these, especially the ones where you see it as just anime Bruce. It is so weird to have him have a deep guttural, like it's just, it doesn't work. So I feel like that was just, they had him because of course they had him on board. Kevin Conroy would do anything at this point, but I think this might have actually even been a good example, right? Get a different Batman voice actor for each Shaw.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah. You know who would have been not a good choice either, but I'm just going to always throw his name out there because he's only done it the one time and it's still the best voice acted Batman we've ever gotten. Fucking Bruce Greenwood.
Oh, Bruce Greenwood is so good.
I know. How has he only voiced Batman once?
It's expensive.
So? He's worth it.
Ian, expensive and worth it with DC animation in 2020. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so this one I like the non-linear storytelling. I particularly like the way that it's just like, it doesn't, like they do straight up say, oh, so it sounds like the guy I saw, but like it's cool how it gets like more and more stripped down. He starts off with like fucking laser guns and a jetpack, and then it just slowly gets to like, all right, so now it's a fucking knife fight by the docks, and that's just cool. I like how that all kind of develops, and then it finally gets down to just a slugfest in this skate park kind of thing.
And I like that, like, Batman looks, because this is still canonically early years Batman, and in several of these stories, but especially this one, like, he's taken some hits. He's looking rough by the time you get to the end of this. So it's like he's still building his myth, he's still building his experience, and so it's cool you get to kind of see that. And it also has like my favorite like stupid cliche trope that's in everything, when he's telling his story and the kid who like was there when the guy shows up to rob everyone, and he's like, and then I was like, go ahead and shoot, man, I ain't scared, and the guy's like, you didn't say that, and he's like, yes I did, shut up. That's like my favorite trope and like things where people are telling a flashback. Like, I love it.
I like the fact that they animated that part too.
Yeah, like they animated him just being like, yeah I did, shut up. Like, it's really funny. It's good. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
For me, it's probably my favorite.
Really?
I think it's the one that really gets the premise of like, if this was like a pitch and they sent this off to all the things, like, we're doing animated, focus on the animation, different styles, showing Batman in a new light to people, short stories, one and dones, get the meaning of Batman in just like 10 minutes ish. Go for it. And I know how that's supposed to go now. I've had experience with that. So this one was the one that stood out to me the most as, yes, this is it. This is the one that really, you can show this to someone who's never seen a Batman thing before and they will get it. That's what Batman is. Oh, that's Batman. Especially because it's shown through the lens of like kids. You get all the things. You get, oh, Batman uses tech. Oh, Batman's a monster. Oh, Batman hides in the shadows. Oh, he's just a guy, right? You cover the whole fucking gambit. You have the thing that Batman works and is understood most the children of Gotham. He's here to save people mostly because that's who Bruce Wayne created. And again, being able to show off different styles of ways that Batman can move really just feels the most like this is a tour de force. Look how talented we are. We can draw robot Batman. We can draw Shadow Batman. We can draw Vampire Batman. We can even draw regular ass Batman in his goddamn trunks. Suck it, Nolan. Like that it is the one to me that feels the most polished, crafted, and just yes, this would be like a fantastic pilot to any series that would be so lucky to look like this for 20 episodes.
Yeah, the art style, I remember when I first saw this, I really didn't like the art style. And it's aged like a fine wine. It looks so good. It's so pretty. I really, really like it. Because I was very shallow as a child when it came to like animation. And then growing up, just the fluidity of it, the backgrounds, especially in this one, are particularly spectacular.
I think it's interesting. This is the only one that the title card is like in the episode, and it's like really, really stylized.
It's just again, man. This one feels the most beginning to end, like. Every single frame was thought through. It's brilliant. It's American literature. They should teach it in schools.
Yeah. The one thing I find funny about this is like you get kind of the disconnect where you can tell like the scripting was one thing and then the animation studios was like, oh yeah, fine, here's the script. We're gonna make this good. But like each animation studio has like their very, very specific interpretations of things. So like this first one ends with just this Batman's been through the fucking ringer on this, and then like it directly leads into the next one, Crossfire, and by the time we see Batman, not only doesn't he look like he's the same person anymore, but he's like a fucking tank, and he's like moving with such grace and ease. And it's like, this is the guy who like maybe 2 hours ago was in a knockdown, drag-out fight with this, like, weird tech villain. And now he's, like, you know, breaking up a gunfight and, you know, punching mobsters and looking like a badass doing it.
That's how it's really good, though, because it replicates the feeling of if you read Batman and then read Detective Comics.
Right? Yeah. Are we good to move into Crossfire, or do we want to... Okay.
I want to segue into Crossfire because Crossfire is written by fucking Greg Rucka, which is hilarious to me. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's kind of got that like Gotham Central vibe because it's from the perspective of Crispus Allen and not Renee Montoya, but Anna Ramirez from the Nolanverse. This one, I never noticed that the person they're bringing to Arkham is supposed to be the guy that Batman beat the crap out of in the last short. Which I never knew that. I never realized that was who that was supposed to be. I never caught that before.
Before I really just said it, or before this watch through?
Before this watch through, I never picked up that was supposed to be the same person because it's been a while since I've watched this. I might have picked that up and forgot it. This one,
because like you see,
Yeah.
in the first shot, right? You think, oh, he's like a merc. He's like a tough guy. Back. Like he's a one-and-off kind of like guy, and he comes in this way. He's like long-haired maniac. He's like, you didn't seem like that guy at all.
Exactly. But man, visually, this one is probably my favorite, just on my own personal aesthetics, because I grew up with this company's work. I grew up with, because this is by Production IG, who are most well known for Ghost in the Shell and Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which I grew up with. I adore everything about how this looks. The big shot of like Batman standing over Gotham with all of its fucking like neon lights everywhere. I had that as like my desktop wallpaper for I don't even know how many years. I adore this one, even though this one's not as tightly scripted as the first one. A lot of it's just kind of weird. They just kind of show up and then there's a mob fight and then Batman shows up and breaks it up. But everything about the way Batman moves, about how he looks, just I gush over the visuals of this for days. I love this short so much.
I wish that this one's team had done the field test I think that, like, I like that story so much more. There's like some really cool things that happen in that one. It's just the animation is the most like jarring there. But this one, I mean, it does look really cool. I didn't realize it was written by Greg Rucka. But, you know, now that you say it, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And it's so funny that MCU was a Nolan movie term before it was a fucking...
Someone needs to use that for memes, right? You've got Kevin Conroy saying you were in the MCU. Like, you can use that for some evil or for some good.
Totally evil. But no, it's funny how that all comes together. Yeah, you're right. The story doesn't make much sense. This is like one of those things where, like, technically, because it's in the Nolanverse, we get some Arkham Asylum lore that's like, what? Which is, you know, you had the Narrows get completely overrun during Crane's Fearotoxin attack in Batman Begins. And now the whole island is Arkham Asylum?
It's Arkham City in the Nolanverse. Are you kidding me?
How, like, that is the coolest fucking idea. And the fact that nothing's done with it in the Nolan movies is just sad. But, like, just that idea that, oh yeah, Arkham Asylum's the heart of Gotham City is now Arkham Asylum. Oh man, that's so cool. And like when they pull up to the thing and they hand him over and the doctors just look more terrifying than the guy. I love it. It's so good. And then they just drive away and it's like, oh, so it's not gonna be okay, fine. You just spent like a really long time setting that all up and literally no one ever pays it off in forever. Okay. And then like the script is probably the weakest part here, where it's just like, okay, let's pull over and just so happen to land right in the middle of this really oddly thought out gang war between...
they just stand there and shoot. Like...
It's like the leaders, and it's so funny to think about this as the Nolan continuity, because you got fucking Julia Roberts' brother or cousin or wherever the fuck that guy is, and then you've got the Russian, and like neither of those guys look like that in the slightest. In the Nolan movies.
Yep. It's so good. Yep. I love it. But yeah, just visually, I mean, when Batman shows up and like the chorus kicks in and he drops down and beats the shit out of these ones, this is that like hyper mega can take down anyone like Arkhamverse Batman, where his cape is like fucking bulletproof somehow. It's just great. I mean, it's a visual treat. I just turned my brain off and watched this one and have so much fun with it.
It is gorgeous. And like standing and walking through the fire.
Yeah, that one specifically, that sequence specifically stands out to me as the best animated version of Batman being scary. The second one close to that is when Kevin Conroy Batman in Justice League Unlimited is like, he captures the Goon and the Goon talks in like a different language and then Batman talks in that language and then the whole screen just covers into Batman's shadow. Well, that's good. But this one specifically, where it's just Batman walking through the fire as chorus plays, as you zoom into a hyper detailed version of the guy's eye, and it looks like he is staring into the pits of hell as a demon is arriving to repent his sins. Like, it's just like biblical shit of like Batman walking through across a room, right? He's just walking. There's not much there, but like it really shows you the difference that good visual design and a good animation team can do. Like, we're saying like the script was the weakest part of this, but this is still like Matt's favorite. Imagine if these guys got their fucking hands anything. Right? It would be
Can you
insane.
imagine if they did the Hush movie in this style?
Holy crap!
even if they wanted to stick with like manga, because this art style is really similar to Kiya Asamiya's, who has done a little bit of Western comics, and he did Batman, Child of Dreams, which is a Batman manga. even if they wanted to adapt that, which is like not the best Batman story, so they're never going to adapt it and it's not very popular, but like that with this art, like fuck, I would lose it. It's so good. It just makes me happy. Also, Batman he has a little Batman clisp.
Yeah,
he's got a little clasp.
He's got the little clasp for his cane.
It's so adorable.
You know, that's funny. They bring that back in Superman Batman Apocalypse. That's in that movie too. It's weird.
That's so cute. I wonder if that like someone who's like moved over to Teams or something, because they also outsource a lot of those movies. That one as well, because that movie's got a lot of Sakuga in it, like how the Supergirl fight scene and the Wonder Woman fight scene. I wouldn't be surprised if that one artist, that's his fucking like stamp on Batman. Is like, if you see the little cape back clasp, that's me.
It's just there in some scenes. It's not there in any of the rest of the movie. They just source him for the fighting animation. And he puts it in there like, the fight's so good. I guess we got to go back and put this in all the other scenes now.
No, but like he can. The thing with those, like he do like a Yamuro for Dragon Ball, where he's like he does corrections. So all the art's finished, and he does the corrections, and he can put it in, man. No one will know.
Yeah. Crossfire, it's so crazy just how much the visuals can really escalate it, because we're talking about Batman and everything. What about that fucking Maroni taking the cop hostage moment? You know?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's just like a little note in the script. It's like, okay, Maroni walks over to Ramirez and takes her hostage to try to stop Batman. And then they're like, okay, well that's a dumb note. Let's make that scene fucking dope. It's just Maroni looks so intimidating with like blood running down his face. Oh, it's great.
Yep, I love it. All right, are we good on Crossfire?
Yeah,
I think so.
I say Crossfire's a visual tour de force.
It is.
Script, not so much, but it's still fine. Like, it's good character development for like the cop and everything. There's still an arc there. There's still something being served. So still a good episode.
Well, let's go to Field Test, which is kind of the opposite. I think Field Test has a really interesting story. I like the idea that Batman finds something that makes his life so much easier, but it inadvertently puts other people at risk, and that's like a line he's not going to cross. And I think that's interesting. And then there's the costume.
Yeah. Now,
this one is done by B-Train. B-Train, mostly known for Dot Hack, which is cool. Dot Hack is not a thing really anymore, but that's cool. This one has the most traditional, like when you think of like anime, like really popular, like shonen anime. Like I feel like this is the one that has that aesthetic, or shoujo anime even.
Yeah, shoujo anime.
Shoujo anime. Yeah, this has that.
This is
very,
the shonen ass.
The shonen ass
Bruce Wayne.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say this though. This is the one controversial thing I'm gonna say this whole episode. The suit is stupid. I like that it's the one suit that is like stuck from this. So like when you get like the DLC, the anime Batman, it's this fucking suit. I love it. The suit is stupid. I don't think Kevin Conroy does a bad job here. I think he does legitimately give his Bruce Wayne a little bit more like youthful, like kind of energy to his voice. I think he does fine. I think Kevin Conroy is fine here. I just think it's kind of weird that he is playing, I think, a slightly younger sounding Bruce Wayne. At least I hear it. And then he goes to his Batman voice and it's just Batman again. And I just think that's kind of funny. But I don't think Bruce Wayne is bad here. He's younger. You know, he's like in his mid to late 20s. He's kind of a pretty boy. Like I don't hate that. It's just kind of jarring is all.
I don't know. You know, the weird thing for me with this one's animation choices is it's only Bruce and Batman that look really out of place in this world.
Yeah.
Like, when he's on the golf course, the guy he's golfing with just looks like a guy. He doesn't look like... He doesn't look as anime stylized kind of thing. Lucius Fox doesn't look as anime stylized. It's really only Bruce.
Yeah.
It feels like there was like a really high quality Batman animated thing, and then someone just like rotoscoped in this anime protag from something completely different and acted like it was Bruce Wayne.
Whoa! Can't believe I just woke up in the body of Batman.
Oh my. Yeah, so I don't know, it's got this it's a very jarring thing. The thing that disappoints me about it though the most is it's I think my favorite like just Batman plot. Like it's got this really cool interesting character arc like Matt talked about with the device that makes Batman's job easier. I want to put a pin in that and come back to it when we talk about Deadshot.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's got that really cool thing for Bruce as a character. It's got Lucius doing cool science stuff. I like the way it connects to the other shorts with the satellite crashing at the beginning of it, and I thought it was really. I just love how like techie and everything. This is the one, as crazy as it sounds, with devices that deflect bullets, right? Mm-hmm. This is the one that feels the most Nolan, just in setup. I think a lot of that has to do with Lucius Fox being there. Mm-hmm. And like the coy way those two talk to each other in those movies. But like, the way you look at The Dark Knight and it's got like that whole sequence to get to Hong Kong. And it's like, okay, well I need something that can get me back into a plane from the ground and yada yada yada, and like the setup and it all kind of culminates in an action sequence. And this is structured exactly the same, which is hilarious because, again, there's nothing quite like that in Begins. There's little isolated things, but not to the same degree. And yet it feels like the Hong Kong scene from Dark Knight without knowing that was going to exist presumptively. Because, like, I love that, like, oh, he's got photographs of the different boats, and neither mobster knows where the other is, but Batman knows where they both are. And they're both on yachts, and he like takes over the yachts and slams them together, and you're thinking, okay, so this is where he's going to take him out. He's like, no, he doesn't have the evidence yet. So he just stops a gang war. Oh, that's such a cool Batman thing.
Yeah.
And it not necessarily that aspect is particularly Nolan-esque. I don't know if that fits with that interpretation of Batman, but it's still a fucking cool-ass moment. You get the docks. You get the slums till I have enough to put both of you away. That's such a cool Batman thing. And I don't know. There's so many things I like about it on story premise. It's just the art direction here is the most jarring, and it just doesn't function with the characters, I feel.
And the fights aren't really like it's a big, like, going from Crossfire to this one is especially rough because of how well animated the fight is in Crossfire. And then you get to this one and the animation for the fighting is a little stiffer. It doesn't quite jive as well. It doesn't move as fluidly. It could just be because I watch a lot of shoujo. I don't super mind Bruce that badly, but the Batman design is so weird.
It just looks like fucking Harvey Birdman, attorney at law.
He looks a lot like you see like Kotobukiya, like DC redesign figures. Where like Japanese artists like have redesigned Superman and Batman and everyone else, Spider-Man. And for some reason, even though like Sentai is a thing in Japan, so many Japanese artists immediately go to, all right, they gotta be super armored, and like just cake it with armor from head to toe. That the design that's in this feels very in line with that. Is like the device is all you really need, and the suit, given he can conceal it while it's bag, right? Like, you could stick that on the utility belt, no problem. It doesn't have to change the design of the costume. They go the extra mile for it, and it really suffers in response to that. And I do think the Bruce thing, kind of in the middle between you and Ian. I do think it's The key here is that I don't think it's inherently a bad decision to try Batman in this art style. I think Bruce Wayne is meant to be a pretty boy. He's meant to be attractive. He's meant to be and the fact is, shoujo anime men, Bishonen, are meant to be drawn super effeminate and attractive for a female audience. It's a standard thing. Honestly, more so than you'll see the square-jawed, hyper chiseled, gruff Batman you see drawn. This is probably one of the Batman more female audience members being, oh, he's cute, right? Like it would give you that a little bit more. While on the same token, though, the fact that they've also got everyone else looking like they do in basically the other two shorts is the issue. I feel is that they should have just gone for everyone, the gangbangers and everything included, in this kind of more anime style. And then I think it would have been more fondly remembered as like, oh, that was cool, that was neat. Yeah. That was, Batman was an anime, and we just got to watch an episode of it. Whereas this feels it's like half and half, weird character model sheet, where maybe they were even working off sheets that they'd got from the other teams, and they just designed their own Bruce. I feel is what the most likely thing happened, which I think would be a mistake. Story-wise, though, I'm in agreement with everyone else. I like the take. I like how guns has kind of become like a through line through this series, especially as we get closer to the end. And I think it helps build like an arc thematically through this. So I feel like this is a great story to have. I just also do wish maybe this one got a better team, or the team that worked on this just went further, because I feel like it's a half measure as they are now, and I would have appreciated if they just went balls to the walls. If they are going to do different Batman, do it, right? Like don't feel constrained that everyone else has to look comic style, quote unquote.
I say get the Crossfire people to make a series. Everyone looks like they do in Crossfire, except for Dick Grayson, who looks Bishonen as fuck.
That works. That really works.
But no, the story here is cool. I like the story in this one a lot. It might be my favorite, just like story wise, because I just like that idea a lot. This one's good. The animation it does not live up to it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, on to the next one.
In Darkness Dwells. This one is written by David S. Goyer, the man himself, the legend. And it's animated by Madhouse, who is one of the creme de la fucking creme of anime. I mean, you're talking Ninja Scroll, the Ninja Scroll. You're talking Trigun, one of my favorites, the Trigun. And you're talking Death Note. Death Note, yeah.
Talking One Punch Man.
One Punch Man.
Which is the craziest for me, the fact that they do a Batman thing, and then they eventually did get to do a superhero thing. Yeah. And they fucking killed it. So it was just like this. Guys, DC sweats profusely. Superman. Please.
This one's so good.
Like, if you can get your production ID, Batman, I deserve a Madhouse Superman series. You fucking cock.
Dude, I mean, Madhouse brings their A game. Fucking Gotham City, in like the opening of this one, that just panning shot through Gotham City is so fuck. And then it like pulls in, and you're not even sure which gargoyle's Batman till it starts moving, and then he like jumps up. Fuck, it's so good. And I don't like the Nolan suit, but they kind of make the Nolan suit work, because this is the only one that really, it's the only one that does it. And the like, not to like jump ahead in the short, but like when he drops down, and the fight sequence in this is, it's up there. It is as good as Crossfire to me, just in a different way. The fight sequence when he like takes out a bunch of Scarecrow's thugs is like so fucking gorgeous. This is another one where when I first watched it as a kid, I didn't really like it that much, because I was like, oh, it's ugly. But now I'm just like, this is fucking gorgeous. I could look at this all day. And
I think it's so weird that the one that is the most like kind of out there comic booky with fucking Killer Croc in it and everything is the one written by David S. Goyer, who helped plot the Nolan trilogy. Like, the fuck.
I think it's really telling. and you can probably pinpoint of like Goyer is probably the one who's like, oh yeah, we should Ra's al Ghul like be maybe immortal, maybe in the first draft of the Batman Begins script, and Nolan's like, no, we're not doing that. He's like, okay, well maybe we can do like Bane. He's like, yeah, go on, fine. He's like, yeah. But then this guy's also the guy who's like, Martian Manhunter's silly. So I don't know where to stand, man. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so funny. Like, Killer Croc is in this, and he ultimately serves no purpose. It's like, yeah, well, I worked through pain and fear toxin that completely incapacitated me in the first movie. I guess this is like him increasing his feats. We now see that he's developed that tolerance to fear toxin. I don't know. It's so weird to me that Goyer's the one that wrote this. That is so bizarre.
It is, yeah.
It feels like if you had told me Goyer wrote the last one, I'd been like, oh yeah, so here he is seeding the Dark Knight stuff. Where if Goyer had written fucking anything else, any of the other ones in this would have made more sense to be Goyer than this one. That's so funny.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny too. I mean, you've got Killer Croc. You've got him dealing with Scarecrow again, which is cool. Like this one's kind of separate from the other ones. He's just kind of dealing with Scarecrow. This is the one that tries to like be a sequel to Batman Begins. He deals with Scarecrow, who actually has a costume, which is nice, even though it's kind of a weird costume. Scarecrow is like kidnapping these he kidnaps a preacher because a preacher was like helping the homeless, and he's like, no, I need the homeless desperate so they can be my thugs, which I think is kind of funny that he would be like, oh yeah, let's kidnap the priest, that's what we want to do. And yeah, Batman goes into the sewers and has to fucking put a bomb in Killer Croc's jaw.
Yeah, there's the Goyer.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I don't know, it's a weird one. I like the Batman walking through the sewers thing. I like the conversation with the guy living in the sewers. That's a good moment. Because that is such a Batman thing. Like, I love when we get Detective Batman stories and we see just how he interacts with people. Like, I can't remember if it's in War Games or if it's all the way back in like No Man's Land, but there's a moment where like Batman stops and talks with like a hooker. And I just and he's on a first name basis with her, and I just that's like the perfect flavor of like Detective Batman for me, where he's just like, he's really in the grittiest parts of it, like all the parts are like it should be uncomfortable or whatever. It's like, no, he knows her. I
think I legitimately read that recently, because he talks to them and he like hands them like, I'm pretty sure this person is hiring reception girls, and he hands them like a Wayne Tech business card, because I'm trying to finally read Morrison Batman. I'm pretty sure that happens in that.
Oh, is it Morrison? Okay,
it's in RIP when he
Shit, okay, my bad. I was thinking it was much earlier than that.
So I'm finally reading that, and I saw that moment like just the other day. Literally, I read that moment. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. I love shit like that. So yeah, like him talking with the bomb thing, and the more I think about it, the more it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely Goyer, because, hey Bat, when you're up above the sky, above the city, how does it look? Like, that is such a Goyer moment kind of thing.
It looks dirty.
Yeah, I like shit like that. That's good.
Gives it that Sherlock Holmes vibe, with the Homeless Network.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. This one I do think has my favorite look to it. It's got a lot of really good visual cues. I do think it helps that they are actively using the Nolan suit in this one. It's got a lot of cool looking moments, like when Gordon's in that tunnel. He's like, I know you're here, and you're expecting Batman to like walk out in front of him or from behind the shadows or something, and he just drops from the ceiling. That's so cool.
When he does that thing I love. There's like a scene where he's like looking at Killer Croc's footprints, and he's like hunched down, and the cape is like all tendrilled out, and then he stands, and you just see the cape like suction, like kind of come into his feet, like in the fucking Batman. In the Batman, and in like the Dead End fan film, like you just see that, like the cape envelop him as he stands. Like shit like that is just like, oh, that is like peak Batman visual.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I do think the Scarecrow design is weird.
Yeah.
Like it's the most like out there thing here. It does kind of just like a very abruptly end in a number of ways, which is kind of neither here nor there. It's just like, okay, we got out, and then explosion. I'm like, oh, okay. This one is the most standalone, which is, I don't know, it probably works against it a little bit, because kind of my complaint earlier is there's like a real cohesiveness to the first two, and then even when you get into the third one, there's still like elements of it, because like the first one sets up the villain who's handed off, and then the second one sets up the gang war, and the gang war is concluded in the next one. So you're like, okay, well, there's the conclusion of the thing of the overarching narrative in the middle of the thing. But then, I don't know, I guess every little thing sets up and kind of hands off, and this is the one that does that the least, if at all. I'm trying to think if there's anything in here that really, like, it's in much connective tissue.
In the commentary, because I've watched the commentary with this a few times when I was a kid. In the commentary, they said that it's supposed to tie into the next one, because in the next one we see Batman in the sewers, like, chasing dudes out. And the dude who like shoots Batman at the beginning of the first one is supposed to be like hype drugged out on fear toxin. So the sequel to this is supposed to be the next one of Batman like going through the sewers and like clearing out anyone who's still there and like getting everyone's weapons who are still left there from Scarecrow being down there. So it's kind of, that's what it's supposed to be. I don't think it plays very well, but that's the
particularly with it ending with him like very clearly not in the sewer anymore, you know?
I guess he came back like a week later. Healed up that Croc bite.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird one. Do we want to go ahead and move on to the working through pain?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Man, I wish Steve was here for this episode, because this is like Steve's whole thing with Batman.
Working Through Pain, animated by the same studio who did the first one. This is Studio 4 Degrees again. This is written by Brian fucking Azzarello, the Brian Azzarello, which I was not expecting his name to show up on this. And yeah, this one I wish I liked more than I did. This one just kind of like, I get what they're going for. It just kind of doesn't. It's fine. I get it. It's fine. It doesn't like it doesn't blow me away. I like it fine though. I mean, I like it's kind of cool because we always see Batman like going to train to be a ninja or going to train to like be a detective or whatever. I like that he's just going to see someone who just teaches him to like block out pain and how that plays with his internal pain. Like I very much get what they're going for, and I think it's good. I just don't. It doesn't like grab me, but I like it fine.
I like this one quite a bit, story-wise. You know, I was joking about it, but like Steve made this point several times, and I do kind of love it, where Batman goes, does his whole tour around the world and learn all the martial arts and everything, but it never changes him as a person. He very clearly like stops paying attention the second that any of his teachers try to talk about like spiritual healing or anything like that. He's just like, no, I am here to learn how to punch and how to kick, and that is it. And this one is like the one that does the most with that, of like, okay, you can learn these skills, but if you're not learning the other side of it, you're not really getting the full lesson here. So this is where he goes and he learns how to block out pain, and that is actually to his detriment, because it is like helping him block out his emotional pain that he's he's very clearly repressing. I do love how much of this is just a Batman story. It has nothing to do with the Nolan films. It fits perfectly in the Nolan films, and kind of contradicts a little something, but not too terribly. But it fits perfectly within those films. It fits perfectly within almost any like Batman series of this tone. I don't know if I could imagine Adam West this way, but easily all my my favorite comic Batman runs could totally fit this story, and that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, that's really fair. I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good point.
I'm a little more, I guess, in the middle again. I do like the initial pitch behind this. I like Bruce Wayne going to learn from someone who's lived more and is an adult, basically, and calling him out on his childish view still, even as he's training, and he still doesn't learn that. And I guess until Dick Grayson Robin comes up or something, depending on how you view it. But like, he just doesn't get it when he's learning. He's focused on, I'm going to learn how to do my thing. I'm not going to integrate the teachings that I've been learning for why they're meant to be there in the first place to help me through this. That's not going to keep me. My rage is important because I'm Batman. I don't need to become more mentally sound. Is one interpretation, right? But at the same time, I'm very much also into I guess like the Morrison view of it, right? Where like he's like, well, Batman does keep that in his mind. Batman did learn those lessons. Batman is centered. He deals with his pain. He goes out. He's went through the Forgo Buddhist ritual, and he did pick up those things, and he is centered. That's like a 70s, 80s globe-trotting Batman, right? Like that's not a Batman we have anymore. I think that ship has sailed until it gets brought back. Even in Morrison's run, for as much as he says he likes that Batman, he made him even more mentally tortured and fucked up sometimes. So it's hard to say, is that a Batman that exists in reality, or is that Batman just exists in our head? Hard to say, but just for me personally, I feel like this has a great intro, right? Batman's been shot. What do you do with this? And then also intercut with Bruce Wayne training to learn a lesson, and this is how he fails. What I find hard to buy is I don't think the two stories mesh well at all. I feel like every time we cut Bruce Wayne learning how to deal with pain, and then we cut back to Bruce Batman falling over himself constantly because of one bullet wound. Hard to buy that he learned. Like, if it was, I don't know how you do it. You'd have to be a smarter writer than I, or just give me more time. Daddy can think of something, I guess. But like, if the lesson is Bruce Wayne got the physical thing, but he does not understand the mental thing, then surely what you're supposed to be showing is Batman actually does succeed. Like he can take the bullet and he can keep going, but he fails in some way that's related to what Cassandra's been talking to. I also want to ask, was this meant to be the Nolan version of Cassandra Cain? Like, what the hell? Just hearing the name Cassandra and a Batman thing stood out to me. I think that's not meant to be, but like it just. That was that, especially from a comic writer like Azzarello. Maybe that was an intentional choice. I wouldn't put it past him. He's done weirder shit with character names. But like,
no, Alfie, I think you're onto something about like, I think it's there at least in some way, shape, or form in the script, and it probably just needed another draft or so, because like he's struggling very hard with the bullet wound, and maybe, you know, conceptually. Maybe this is in script, but it's not interpreted properly in animation. Because this is interesting to think about. I'm developing this thought as I'm saying it. What if the script is Batman is, you know, dealing with this bullet wound as he makes his way through the sewer? And what if that's all the notation? But the animation team... like, okay, well, he's been shot, so this has really, really got to hurt him, and he's really got to be struggling the whole time. But then you get to the end of it, and the moment that, like, he freaks out, that he loses it, that he kind of goes a little crazy and doesn't properly deal with the more emotional pain that Cassandra is talking about, is when he finds a gun, and then he finds another gun and another gun and another gun. Like, I really do love that moment at the end of Alfred trying to help Batman up, and he's just like got arms full of guns, and he literally can't let it go. He has to bring these with him. He's like, I always forget because like I guess I put the line in my head. I never remember if it's actually in the episode. Does he say anything to Alfred?
Yeah, he says I can't.
Okay,
Yeah,
he does say I
can't.
can't.
He's like, take my hand, Bruce, and he's like, I can.
Yeah, like I think that's there in script, right, Alfie? It's not. There's a dissonance between what's shown on film.
Maybe. Because I would also say I don't think I'd be hard. I mean, it's Brian Nazarello. For some reason, this dude always just gets fucking paired with the best artists. I hate it, kind of. I'm like, why does this guy fit fucking Leva Mail and Studio 2 Degrees? Like, the fuck? Like, that's a whole of a business. But like, we've got that happening, right? But it's not like I just wrote the dialogue portion, go nuts. I assume they write script directions for Batman walking through the tunnel. Batman activates a thing, puts it on the wound, like stuff like that. I don't think was entirely. I still think that is a fault of the script. I guess is what I'm saying. I think like if you are gonna go that way, it is your job as the script writer to make that more clear. If you're just leaving it to them to kind of go wild, and that's fine in some cases, right? You can work that way, especially with an animation tour de force like this. I think that with like the Crossing Fire script and like the Into Darkness script, it's like, oh yeah, fight scene, right? That's what you need to put. These guys know how to do that. Perfect. I imagine what they did with that awesome fight scene in this with the thugs, right? That. Batman dealing with pain because we're going to pay that off later because that's when the emotional pain gets. No, you need to make if that's your intention, right?
Nah,
so I'm a little less forgiving.
No, I think you're right. Again, I'm kind of putting that thought together as I was coming up with it because I'm like, the emotional payoff thing is there in the gun scene. I just think there's a dissonance between it being communicated visually. I guess it does help a little bit if, like, conceptually, he's also just been in a fight with Killer Croc and done all this crazy stuff. But again, that just doesn't feel like the case. Like Matt said, it feels like maybe it's a whole week later. Yeah. As far as the other thing I had on this one was, again, really, really pretty animation. You're right, Alfie. It's a really cool fight scene. God, that does not look like Bruce Wayne.
I think this one actually, though, I will give the benefit of the doubt. I think this does look like anime Bruce Wayne. This would, if I was to draw anime Bruce Wayne, especially young, like world-traveling Bruce Wayne, I'd draw him like this. Like, this looks a lot closer than the Bullets one. I think this one actually looks like legitimately, I could see this. I think he's got the jaw, he's got the hair, he's got the eyes. Like, I think this does look like Bruce Wayne.
I think the jaw is the weaker point here. It's not like it's not Deadshot short jaw, but it's there. It's getting there. The jaw develops throughout the film.
It just gets pointier and pointier.
As it becomes more Chadley, he starts off as the twink who needs a deflecting device and ends as the Chad who takes the bullet.
right. No, like, I don't know. It's something about it because like we get so much of Bruce Wayne in this. This is much more a Bruce Wayne short than a Batman short. I actually quite like the way they draw Batman in this, by the way. I think every studio perfectly nails Batman in one way, shape, or form, except for the field test. And I don't think any of these guys get Bruce Wayne. I don't know, something about it, like, I see where you're coming from, Alfie, but something about it, it's just a little, it's better, but it's better than the field test, but it's still not quite there, you know? Like, there's something about it that, like, Bruce has, like, this very stern kind of look to him, and I don't know, I'm not feeling it here. Like, even when he's younger, he's got a very stern, joyless face. And there's something about this one that just didn't quite hit that way for me.
I don't have a strong opinion on the Bruce Wayne in this one. I think he's fine. This one, like Crossfire and In Darkness Dwells, has an incredibly well animated fight scene. And I don't know, just as a design for a character, I really like how Bruce looks in this. Like, he's I know he's really great. I like that he punches a guy so hard that he vomits on the way down. I get where you're both coming from. I ultimately probably err on the side of Alfie on this one. I think Bruce looks fine in this, but I also agree that none of these really give us a great Bruce Wayne design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I like this one. The animation's really good. The animation's very pretty in this one. I think this is a really good. This is another one that I think kind of like the production IG one. Just like this style just works for Batman really well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else on this one, or we want to move on? Take that as a move
I think
on?
move on. Yeah, I think move on.
All right, Alfie. I don't think you've started any of these. Why don't you start this one off?
Well, you know, everyone who's listened to this for a while now knows I have a little thing with Bane. I have the same thing with Deadshot. If a character's with a full face mask, stop showing the goddamn mouth. that's how I'm going to introduce this. Is my pet peeve is like Deadshot's got a fucking baller ass design, and they always ruin it because they show his stupid mustache face. I hate it, and this does it too. But yeah, this is a Deadshot short, and I think this one's interesting because this one has been done by the guy Alan Burnett, who does basically every DCAU thing. He's worked on a lot of Batman Beyond. He's worked on a lot of things. So this genuinely, to me, feels the most like an episode of Batman animated series over everything, except maybe one that's can go a little harder with the rating. Because I don't think the Deadshot's in Justice League, but he was never in BTAS. This feels like an episode of that overall, which is a good thing for me. But it also means it doesn't quite justify. Like, if we're going with this big, bold new direction of getting new people to animate Batman, maybe we should be getting the same guys that we've always been getting to write him. like that's why I like the original short and the even the Bullet short, right? Because they are done who haven't done that, and I think it's a great way to show new talent. Whereas this again just feels like, oh yeah, well we had the DCAU guy, so he did a really solid, good Batman episode. But it doesn't feel as outstanding, especially when I feel like this, as much as I like the Scarecrow one, this one I think is Madhouse like doing their pitch. All right, this is a Batman show.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I do like the script on this one quite a bit. I like the misdirect that we get with Deadshot here, where it's like, oh, he's been hired to take out Gordon because Gordon's cleaning up the police force, and really Gordon was the bait to draw out Batman. I thought that was really cool. And it's just like it's got that fucking like Holmes Moriarty levels of complexion, levels of complexness. That's a weird word. Levels of complexity. There we go. That just keep like stacking and stacking. It's like, okay, Deadshot's not on any of the rooftops because he knows that Batman's gonna have some kind of fucking crazy spy gear. So Deadshot's gonna be on a train. But not the one train, it'll be the other train. And then Batman's going to block the bullet, but that's okay, because that's what Deadshot wanted the whole time, was to draw Batman out. And now he's got him on a train where he can't dodge bullets because he's on a fucking train. You got no room to dodge. And so Batman's only choice is to run at the bullets, unless he had some kind of device meant for deflecting bullets.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, when you take this as a cohesive film, that is the biggest setup and drop payoff in the fucking world, right? It's like, okay, I've got this device that can help me deflect bullets. Well, never using that again. Oh, look, here's this villain that's like a really, really good shot. Maybe I could use some device where I can negate his good shotness.
Good shot. That's like the Teen Titans we can't call Deathstroke slave kind of shit. So they call him Good Shot.
Oh god.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, objectively, it's not meant to be viewed that way. It is just a Batman short, but like, at the same time, someone that like all of these scripts had to go through a producer, editor, or something, right? Like clearly someone else should have made that connection along the way and been like, oh wait, so you just have him like run into the bullets, which is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Especially since Deadshot's supposed to be such a accurate shot. That's the real name right there, accurate shot.
Yeah, I feel that.
I don't know. Like this one narratively it's okay. It's not. I'm not gonna say it's weak. It's not any weaker than Crossfire. It's just okay. It looks really pretty. That whole sequence with Deadshot killing that dude. Oh.
Like that opening shot. That opening shot to really establish Deadshot as a threat is really great. The way the bullet goes through the like fucking wine glass. It feels like that. It feels like, because I was watching Kill Bill the other day. It feels like that shot from Kill Bill and like Lucy Liu's character's backstory. Like it's just so fucking like, oh, it's so good. This is one like Crossfire where I'm just like, I would pay so much money for more stuff that looked like this. Like Bruce Wayne's design is a little weird, and like the animation's very shadow heavy, but goddamn, their Batman design is fucking gorgeous. Like he's that perfect mix of like lean but still pretty built. I like that on his cowl, the lenses are like white, but you can still see his eyes behind them. Yeah. That's so fucking cool, and I can't believe no one's ever done that before.
Like legit!
Like it's
Spider-Man's been doing that for years! Why is it so hard to figure out?
Like, that's really cool. Like, he's got, like, yeah, they're, like, white, so they're freaky, but he's got his eyes behind them, which makes them even freakier. It's also got my favorite bat symbol, which is, like, the bat symbol that's still curved at the edges, but without the oval. Like, I don't know why, I just like that bat symbol a lot.
That's one of the things I think, again, should have probably had someone leaning harder on to just make sure they were all using the Nolan symbol.
Yeah, probably.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, that's
marketing fair. And all.
Well, but Ian, this is where that falls apart. Which Nolan symbol? Because when they were making this, it was a different one.
That's true. Well, it's weird because like the Batarangs are very particularly the Nolan symbol throughout the entire trilogy. It's just on the suit that it's different.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It is weird. It's weird. So I'm just gonna say, at that point they were like, "Fuck it, just do what you want, right?" So I think that's just like a correction. Maybe DC was like that, but they were probably like, "Yeah, but you guys can't keep that straight. The fuck?" So yeah, but. Like, yeah, this Batman looks, and this is just animation and art style wise. I don't understand how this came out and then comic book animation movies didn't realize, oh, that's how we get it to look like Jim Lee. Heavy black shadows. Like, no shit. Like the Hush movie, right? Every single shadow on that is like a really soft, really small gradient, right? It's like Clip Studio Paint. I could just turn up the opacity on those shadows, and it's black, and it looks more like this, and there you go. It looks Jim Lee's art, because that dude just covers things in black shadows. So like, I don't understand why this can come out and show you can make it look more like those more detailed comic book artists without sacrificing fluid movement, as long as you just make sure those character design sheets are like solid. You make sure you've got someone who understands lighting and the thickness of these lines and just being able to experiment a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So I do think out of all of these, this is the one that even if DC didn't take it, this is the one that I wish springboarded their whole house style for how they do animations. For like, this is how you handle it. This is how you do comic book art with those thick lines and deep shadows. It's not hard. It's not impossible. But sadly, it didn't go that way. So this remains this whole project, I guess, and like just as a thing, because I think this last one kind of sums up as if we were ever going to get that like high budget HBO or even just Adult Swim Batman show, I think it would look like one of these, and this is the one I think is the most likely candidate. But sadly, for some reason, although it there's the marketplace for adult DC shows. Harley Quinn has shown that. Even just the fact that anime is so popular as it is, I don't know why DC, and I'm assuming this did well. People talk about it all the time. It's always referenced whenever DC does animation trailers. They always have stuff from this end, so they recognize the quality. I just don't understand why they're letting basically a gold mine just slip by them. Is it like
DC
pride?
makes poor decisions. They hire great writers and great artists, and then they make really poor decisions.
Is it one of those where it's like, oh, we like this, but that's not our Batman. That's anime. I feel like that might be I feel like that might be a lot of the people higher up, because that's how I see a lot of comic book artists do talk about manga. Is like, I love Doc Shaner, and Doc favorite Superman artist, but he's like, oh yeah, I just can't watch anime. I just don't like it. And I'm just like, it's so weird to me that you can be an artist, and I guess maybe if you are that good of an artist, you can just pick something out that I'm missing, but. Like comic book artists almost feel a little bit more offended. No, why do you have to get the Japanese artists to come and do this? We should be able to do it. But at the same time, the fact is, the reason why the Japanese artists are normally better is because anime is so much more respected. They actually get to train more. They actually practice it more. Whereas Western comic book animation is always going to be looked down upon compared to like regular shows. So, this is why you end up with stuff like Beware the Batman, where yeah, it's a great idea for a show and everything, but like, I don't know, man, CG Batman ain't the move. Why can't we get this? Is all I'm saying.
I don't mind the designs in Beware the Batman, but we're getting a little far off topic. This one, all right, so to kind of wrap it back with the art style. So I will make fun of it. I literally, the very first thing I thought of when I was watching this tonight was a joke. Like, I'm watching it with Haley, and it's just that very, that shot of Bruce in front of the monitors or whatever he's doing. And it's just the most, like, heavy shadows on the chin. I'm like, that chin, though. And she starts giggling because she's thinking the same thing. All that being said, ignoring the chin, this is the most Bruce Wayne look. This is the one I like the most for Bruce. Because he's got that bulkiness to him, but like the hair works. It's got like that slick back. Bruce is one of those guys who's like very, very much. I think like even young Bruce Wayne never really looks young to me. Is I think something that kind of enters my head. And this is the one that I think nails it the most, where like he kind of just looks like a man in a number of ways, and I really do like that about it. The only thing that really holds this back is that chin, though.
Also, like Bruce Wayne needs to learn some... Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. If you do some corrections on that chin, this would be a great anime Bruce Wayne for me.
He also needs to learn some fucking trigger discipline. When he picks up that pistol, he's got his finger on the trigger the whole time. What the fuck? Which actually, I don't like it. I guess it doesn't like jive super well with like the emotional reaction he has to the guns in the last short or whatever. But I mean, I like the idea that Bruce would have a fucking ton of guns, because guns are complicated. And if your day job or your night job is fighting dudes with guns, you need to know. You need to be able to recognize that's the model gun they're using. That's how many bullets are in the clip. That's how you disassemble it. Like, he needs to know that shit. He needs to be able to rattle that shit off. So I like that they tackle that. I don't know much about Deadshot, but I like his pimp outfit and his pimp hat. I just think it's fun. So this is aces across the board for me. I just love this. This is great. I would kill for an HBO series that looked like this or Crossfire. At least seven. At least seven.
Okay. Do they have to be like specific people, or can I name them, or is it just going to be 7 random people?
Any of the above, really.
Okay. Let's start with your family.
Okay.
Next.
Oh, dude, I forgot. I'm like watching this in the background just on YouTube as we're talking. I forgot when Deadshot throws the like cocktail sword and pins the Wasp to the chair.
I love that shit so much.
It's
so
hilarious.
hyped.
That's
so
hilarious.
Am I the only one that remembers Daredevil 2003 where he fucking kills the old man? Or no, it's an old lady. He kills the old lady with the peanut on a plane.
As if hubris to imagine I don't think about that at least once a day.
Oh, sure, I'm sure. It's mostly just the wake me up inside training sequence with Elektra, right?
Having made up inside.
But that actually reminds me of this specifically, man. Is another thing of just how Tom's accepted this. This is the source for Batman AMVs. This is your Batman music videos. I used to watch those all the time as a kid. Is all the scenes from this were just people would go to. It's the only thing, and like that scene from Red Hood where he fights Jason. It's the only scene where Batman gets Sakuga. Batman flows and moves like an character when he really feels like he belongs in that world, and it's just such a shame that such a visually interesting character, through all the fantastic artists who have worked on the team and all the animated series, it's just the variety isn't there as much, right? Like it's just, especially in his movement and how he fights. Like I feel like that's something that Batman should get shown more. So I really do. Batman's an eternal character. We're gonna get something like this, and I just hope maybe it can lean into a little bit more, and maybe spark into something more. Like imagine Wonder Woman like this, right? Like holy
Don't you
fuck.
fucking tease me, you bitch.
But imagine any character like this. Dude, you're a Green Lantern fan, right? Imagine Green Lantern with like fucking Sakuga constructs, but they look like Dragon Ball Z Ki Blast that are taking different shapes, right?
No,
These
I mean,
characters...
like, no lie. You really... We've already reviewed it on Geeky Gentleman. I might have to pick it again down the line just because it is... Green Lantern Emerald Knights gets a little bit to this. You can tell they're outsourcing. So it's still using like the Western designs and stuff, but like the quality of animation for it gets pretty good in Emerald Knights. So yeah, that's definitely worth a watch. Particularly the First Lantern and the Lyra stories get really good animation. Wonder Woman, not so much. Bloodlines is kind of basic with some of the animation, which is crazy because like they go out of their way to have Wonder Woman fight like all of her A-list, and the fights are just kind of yeah, all right, they're fine. So I don't know. It's whatever, I guess.
What's everyone's favorite short?
Mine's
Crossfire.
So I'm safe.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go with the Deadshot one. Yeah. It's far from perfect, but it does have like a really solid look to it. It's got like any problems I have with it are so secondary compared to the rest of the stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. Like even the thing I talked about with the bullet deflector, like that's weird because the way that they decided to do this. It's not anything wrong with the short itself, and watching these just as shorts is so much better. And thinking them as shorts as opposed to a film that's trying to be connected. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd say probably Crossfire. Like I understand that it's probably one of the weaker scripted of all of them, but the visual style of it just ticks like all the boxes for me. Like that is the one that has my favorite look to it. It gives me my Gotham Central vibes because I really like that book. And it's just got the most epic fucking just scary giant Batman. Like Crossfire and Deadshot have like really informed what like Batman looks like in my head because I watched this when I was pretty young. And so when I think of Batman in my head, I either think of giant ass Batman from Crossfire or that like sleek Batman that perfectly like from the Deadshot short. So I would say Crossfire is probably my favorite, even though it is one of the weaker scripted ones.
Nice. All right. Guess we gotta go on and do ratings. I don't really want to rate each individual short. Let's just rate the experience of Gotham Knight. You don't have to rate it as a film, just as an experience, as watching these shorts all collectively. I'll go ahead and go first. I'll give this 4 out of 5 bullet deflector setups that are not paid off.
For me, I'm gonna give it a 5. Dachshunds though. Simply because I'll give it a higher rating just because as an experience, I think as a Batman fan, you should watch this just to kind of open up your mind for what Batman can be a little bit more. I think it's a good experience to be able to see a character you enjoy, or even again, if you're not a Batman fan, this might be something that gets you into it. I think this is a really good introduction for Batman. For people, specifically if they are anime fans, you can kind of sell them on the premise a little bit easier. The only weak point is I do think some of the scripts are just kind of there to surface the animation, but when the animation looks this good, how can you really complain? So yeah, really, really good rating for this. I would definitely recommend this, and I just wish every main DC character got something like this. I know, even then, if I can't get that, just give more than this to Batman. I would kill to see how any of these guys would draw Robert.
How many
that would be
you
so
kill?
cool.
How many people would you kill?
Are you gonna ask me that? You don't want to go down that road, man. We burned America down to the ground. I'm all for doing it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 5 Deadshot Pimp Hats out of 5. Yeah, I do think it could have leaned into it a little bit more. I do think that some of the scripts are weaker than others, but I'm just so happy this exists. And looking at it for what it is rather than like kind of imagining what it could have been. I think this kills it. Like, I think this is so good. I'm just so happy that this exists at all. What's here is so good that I'm not gonna get too caught up on like, well, if they'd maybe tweaked this or if they maybe gone a little farther with that, like, yeah, those would have been nice, but what's here is just so stellar. I love this. I adore this. And I'm glad I'm not alone in that, because I hear some people trashing this sometimes, and I don't know what they're smoking, but I don't want any of it.
Whenever I make fun of this, I make fun of it more for like stuff around it as opposed to the film itself, you know?
Like it being in continuity with Batman Begins. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the fact that DC just like, you know, like again, this is a year after they'd started these direct-to-DVD movies. This is probably the second or third. I honestly can't recall.
Is the third?
Third? Okay. And it's like, this is when they were still putting effort and really excited about the line. And so they were willing to do really experimental stuff. Like, God, I would love for them to do something like this with other characters. Like, a Justice League thing like this, where like each character gets a short. Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, you can
with experimenting with the animation styles and stuff. That'd be super cool.
You can watch these on YouTube. If you really like it, though, I would try to hunt down the DVD, because the commentary has Denny O'Neil, Kevin Conroy, and someone else is on the commentary who's not as important as Denny O'Neil and Kevin Conroy. It's really cool. Denny O'Neil just he goes on a bunch of big rants about how he does his whole superheroes are modern mythology rant. And Kevin Conroy tells a really touching story about how he was working in a soup kitchen after 9/11. It's a good time, and they make fun of the Batman design in Field Test, and they call him Batman if Batman was Gotcha Man, which is fun.
Damn.
Yeah, so if you can get a hold of the DVD, I recommend it, because the commentary is really fun.
Nice. All right. Well, folks, Geeky Gentleman's going to be either going on a hiatus or going through a change for a little bit. I'm having a daughter. The prediction right now is the Wednesday after this video will be posted.
That's so exciting.
Thank you. So we're really, really excited for that, but understandably, I'm going to be kind of drained for at least a month, if not longer. So I'm not going to be doing Geeky Gentleman for a little bit. Alfie, however, suggested a thing, and so I'm going to bring it up and we're going to talk about it right now. Alfie, you want to go over your idea that you had?
Well, the idea that I had, and me and Matt kind of talked about it in DMs, well, prior to the episode is that Daddy's gonna take over for a second. Not actual Daddy, spiritual Daddy, me. Daddy's gonna take over with Matt as my lovely co-host, and we're gonna buddy cop it and maybe bring in some guests along the way. People like the lovely Jonathan Bell, maybe, or who knows. But we're just gonna buddy cop this while Ian actually does live stuff, and we can just talk about comic books.
All right. Now, okay, so it's supposed to be a discussion topic, and it would technically be one of yours. I guess it'd be your discussion, right, Alfie?
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
I am going to supersede that as my farewell for the time being. So long and thanks for all the fish. I'm gonna supersede that, and I'm gonna give the topic just because I'd said for a long time that, hey, people can leave suggestions for episodes of Geeky Gentleman if you're watching, but no one fucking watches Geeky Gentleman, so no one leaves suggestions. So I'm going to give you guys a discussion topic that I think it'll be interesting to hear y'all talk about. And I'll try to listen to the episode, maybe at like 3 a.m. or at some point or something. I'm nervous. So what would be a fun one? All right. I am curious to hear you guys talk about the visualizations of let me rephrase this. The evolution of comic book characters' visual designs. Because my character takes thing, we kind of got into it a little bit, but I think that there's a lot of ground to cover just in that on its own, and I'm really curious to hear you guys talk about that.
That was literally going to be my topic.
Oh, that's hilarious.
like are you talking more like their costumes, or just how they've been drawn over the years, or kind of all of the above?
Kind of all of the above, like the Batman going from the purple gloves to the oval to the gray and black and yada 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 all along the way, that kind of thing. That's so funny. All right, so everyone, I'll be very excited to hear that episode next week. I'm sure all of you will as well. Until then, I'm the philosopher.
I am the champion of the oppressed.
I'm the Sonic Erotica lover.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.